Welcome, CEOs. I am Hermione Olivia, and I invite you to cherish every opportunity to connect the dots. CEO Yourself was created as a destination for motivation and to inspire you wherever you are on your journey to become the CEO of your life. Coming up on this week's episode of CEO Yourself.
When I started my business, you never know it's going to be where it is. I never knew that in 6 years' time we'd be in the largest shop front on the street and our business would have doubled each year and all the amazing things that I can celebrate. But you don't believe it ever really will work, and that's all imposter syndrome and all these kind of things. And
the work never ends and you can always do and be more. But in actual fact, like stopping and checking in with yourself.
Cherishing every opportunity.
Yeah. And being really clear about what phase of life you're in and what you can deliver without killing yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do say, like, put on your man hat and like think like a man, because it helps you kind of cut through emotional decision making.
But also as women, we're very good at being each other's cheerleaders.
Yeah, which is incredible. Yeah. Daisy Knatchbull is the founder of Knatchbull, the first and largest storefront for women on Savile Row, formerly The Deck. She has recently been appointed editor-in-chief of Cultura, the magazine for the female entrepreneur. Daisy is our first guest to return to the podcast as we explore her rebrand, new appointment, and get personal as she interviews me on what's been happening behind the lens at CEO Yourself and personally this year. Daisy Knatchbull, welcome back to CEO Yourself.
Thank you.
We've definitely had an upgrade since you were first here.
I've got a chair now. Last time I was having real issues with the chair, although I clashed very badly. But it's very cozy and lovely.
For those listening at home, she is very much in the Christmas spirit, in a green suit on a red.
I came as the Christmas tree.
I really wanted to have you back because obviously we have the best chemistry. And you're so inspiring, and we had such incredible feedback to your episode, but also because I feel ready to shake CEO Yourself up and to try a new format.
You've done so well. Is this episode 40?
40, yeah.
In how long?
It's been a big year. Since March.
I mean, only you. I love it.
It's
and
been
you have a cult following. People talk about my episode, they're not stop me. They just want to hear you. I love it.
People loved your episode. So I thought it would be fun to have you back and to talk about what's happened this year, what you've been up to, what we've been up to. I don't have any questions for those listening at home. I don't have any cards because we're just going to...
We also spent 45 minutes in the car eating croissants and drinking
solving the world's problems. We
run
should
out
have filmed that.
We always say that though. We need a live camera following us, a little mic.
No, but it's been a big year, and you also have a new position that we're going to go into.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a big year. I can't believe that we're sitting here. I didn't even recognise the studio I'm in. It's so beautiful, and can't believe this is episode 40. But also I can't believe it's November.
How did that happen?
And it's nearly the end of 2024 as we know it. It's been a weird year.
It has been a weird year.
I mean, it's been a great year, but it's been an odd year. And I feel like it's been an odd year for a lot of people.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going through something, like physically or like in their career, or like a lot of breakups, and there's just like been a weird energy.
But there's something, I don't know, I'm not very good at this, but my mother follows all the Mercury and retrograde and the various planets. But it is crazy, the alignment with that. And we should probably ask Kagi, she knows a lot more about all of that. But I wonder the significance of 2024 astrologically, or, you know, there's definitely, when there's collective feeling of or maybe it's just there's a lot of sadness in the world with elections and wars and...
It definitely feels uncertain, outwardly and inwardly.
And I think that's been since the pandemic is when I've really felt that externally, like a worldwide pain or collective uncertainty and fear. And I don't know, I don't know if it's just getting worse. I mean, it's a lot of, I don't know. Anyway, that all aside, there's been lots of exciting things on both sides for both of us. I have raise some more money, which is always tough but wonderful, and always a great reminder of how much one believes in their own business. It does really get you remembering exactly why you're doing what you do and how far you've come. It's a nice way to stop and remember how far you've come, because all you got to do is pitch how well you've done for months. So that's been good, and done a little rebrand. So the deck is no more. The rebrand
is amazing.
It's Knatchbull, and
the branding's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good. The little emblem.
Yeah, I love the
We're going to have a lot of fun with that emblem. Put it on kind of scarves and
What
hats
spurred you on to do that?
It's funny because when you come up with an idea of something, I mean, you know, the title, CEO Yourself, is such a great, and you've done so much with it. And I think you're very good at giving that time and effort to things and making them really purposeful. And I think when I started my business, you never know it's going to be where it is. I never knew that in 6 years' time we'd be in the largest shop front on the street and our business would have doubled each year and all the amazing things that I can celebrate. But you don't believe it ever really will work, and that's all imposter syndrome and all these kind of things. And I really thought about all these kind of names, and the deck was very right for where it was. It was about 4 suits and a deck of cards, and there was this kind of quite sweet analogy around it. And in no way do I think that, you know, I had its time and place. And
I felt sad to see it go.
I know a lot of people said that, but then it's like when you break up with a kind of shitty boyfriend, a lot of people are like, oh, phew, I hated the deck. And I thought, oh, okay.
Thanks for letting me know what you
You know what I mean? Everyone chimes in with their opinion. But the deck definitely had a time and place. And I think originally it was just wanting to prove myself without putting my name on anything and making it its own entity. And I think we did that. And so many clients were coming up and kind of, you know, we no longer do suits, we do dresses and skirts. And I think we didn't want to be too known for just doing suits. It was about doing bespoke and ready to wear, made to measure, beautiful clothes for women. And that included dresses and skirts and shorts and shirts. And so Knatchbull definitely felt more fitting and more encompassing, particularly as I step away maybe from the day to day. But, you know, my presence is felt in the ready to wear or in the bespoke or in the cloths that I curate and so, yeah, it's been nice. Knatchbull Savile Row definitely feels more.
Yeah, it feels like a beautiful maturing or like evolution of the brand and you.
Yeah, and I think I'm different. The business is different and I've got a killer team behind it. And I think it feels like fitting for the inflection point that we sit at of the business and how far we've come. But God, I feel ready for Christmas.
Someone said that to me the other day. They said, I can't wait to put my out of office on and pour myself a glass of champagne.
I'm going to a health dinner in January. I'm going to have a very indulgent Christmas and then go and kind of focus on my inner self.
But can we talk about America and everything you've been doing there?
That has been
Because I think that
unexpected.
will be really interesting for the listener, particularly those with businesses or who are looking to grow.
Yeah.
How you've taken on, it's a drastically different market.
Yeah, they love to spend in the US in a way that the English don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to talk about for, you know, your listeners, because the trunk show model, we call it trunk show. It comes from the Savile Row term. What they used to do is take old trunks, put them on ships over to the US and literally see people and open up these trunks of goods and sell them. Pop-ups is kind of what they're more known as. And this pop-up model around the US is hugely lucrative for a lot of brands, you know, great brands like Martha Stance with nothing underneath, you know, there are lots of people traveling the US, I mean, and a lot more. Members clubs popping up there, you know, 5 Hartford Street's opening, Maxime's in New York, you know, there's a lot of Britishness in America and there's a lot of Anglophilia in America towards British things. And I think being an all-women's Savile Row tailor has just, you know, it's really chimed there. And I think as an American woman sitting at a lunch in Palm Beach or Texas or New York or LA saying my Savile Row tailor is coming to, you know, round the corner to just off Fifth Avenue and I'm going to see them after lunch. It's pretty cool. And so America, we've just taken by storm. And I think clients host us in their homes and they want to open up their black books and they're excited by us. And I think we're different but also bringing that kind of heritage Britishness, but with a modern twist and with an inclusive twist. And
would you ever get to the point of opening a store there?
It's definitely somewhat in the pipeline. I think, yeah, definitely in New York, there's going to be an opportunity to open something there, you know, only if it worked, but certainly a beautiful space that kind of would allow us to see the US clientele in the way that we can in the UK, burning our own candles and with our own lighting and because on these pop-ups, you know, there are lots of variables you can't control. But, you know, we'll be doing a lot of travel all over the US next year, LA, San Francisco, Aspen, Chicago, New York, Palm Beach, LA. I said LA, but a lot of
going to LA.
I'm quite excited. I haven't been to LA since COVID.
Oh, I love LA. Can we talk about the practicalities of this year though? Because as you know, I love to kind of dismantle the perception of what it's like to have your own business.
Yeah.
And
you do that very well.
The practical realities behind the scenes as to like how you build the brand and how bad you are at replying to WhatsApps.
Me personally?
That's a dig.
Let's
no,
talk about
because
that.
you have had to be in America.
Yeah.
What is it, like a week a month?
On
average?
It's a little bit less than that, but yeah, there's a lot of US travel. There's a lot. I think we're in the US every month. You know, between September and December, apart from one, we're back in Feb, March. I mean, it's nearly every month there's US travel.
Which is hard because it's dividing your attention here as well.
Yeah, it comes with its
and it's a
downsides.
personal investment.
Yeah, I think I'd love to talk about the not replying to WhatsApps thing, because I think you're either a person that does or doesn't when you're busy. You know those people that are, I'm definitely in the other camp of this, but when people get stressed, they're like, weight just falls off me, you know. And I'm not that person, sadly. But, you know, there are people that put on lots of weight when they're stressed, and there are people that lose lots of weight when they're stressed. And I think there are people that can manage their WhatsApp inbox when they're stressed, and there are people that can't. Or maybe it's not about being stressed. And for me, the way we live today, WhatsApp has become another email inbox. It just has. You can actually filter by unread now, and, you know, flag or what. I mean, you can't flag, but, you know, WhatsApp are building out features. It's really a glorified email inbox. And a lot of my clients at that personal level, you talk with, you know, through WhatsApp. You don't email. It's that more informal VIP relationship that you might have with the founder of a brand. And when things are busy, it's like managing two inboxes, and I don't really know how to cope, and it's still a trait that I need to get better at, but I've become avoidant of it.
I've become avoidant of my email inbox.
Yeah, but it gives me anxiety.
So tedious.
It's something I don't know how to deal with. And I can't see the wood from the trees. And all I do is, on my commute to work, all I'm doing is, okay, sift through, look through, prioritize. What are you missing? Who do you need to reply to? So being on my phone isn't enjoyable for me. It is the most unenjoyable experience. I find all I do is apologize to people, because for my friends, I'm missing important things. I even think I said on the last episode, and I don't want to repeat myself, that someone had written me a voice note telling me they were pregnant. Voice notes are hard for me because you have to be in the right environment where you're not in public and you can listen to it out loud.
And you have to be in the right mood.
And you want to be able to
listen straight away and reply within like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to hear from me for a week. And it's nothing to do with the person.
But it's giving it the headspace.
It's just the mindset.
Yeah. And being able to give it the space where you know you can give a nice reply. But I missed someone telling me they were pregnant. So 6 weeks later, they just hadn't heard from me. And so you spend your life apologizing or prioritizing and maybe getting that wrong. And in the kind of state of recently, I've had to slow down a little bit because of some health news, and, you know, being very close to almost a burnout. It's, if I really break down my life about where a lot of source of my anxiety is coming from, it's WhatsApp. It's endlessly feeling like I'm letting people down, or I'm not, or endlessly sifting through a lot of information and trying to figure out where my priority is. So January, I'm getting a PA, which is very exciting.
That's really great. I use WhatsApp on my desktop. And the reason I do that is because you can open it up a few times a day and you can actually use it as an email kind of system.
See, that's a good way
and I find it much easier to sift through. But I think I've told you this, I archive every single message every single time. So then my inbox is like empty at the end of the day.
Changed my life.
And or not empty. Like today, there's probably 20 messages I haven't gotten to yet. But I'm feeling as if I almost wish emails would just move over to WhatsApp and everything was on WhatsApp and you had like one place. Because
Gosh, how interesting.
Well, the thing about emails are, I feel like they're so clunky. It's always hard to find the thing. Like in a WhatsApp chat, you can go like straight to links, straight to like the files. It's all in one central place. You're never searching. Like I'm going through all these different email chains trying to find a contract.
The email chain search.
Do you know what I mean? Or like the deposit invoice or whatever. And also just like the influx of emails that we don't need every day. Like, you know, the people sending you things that like are not relevant to you or whatever. Like I think there's a lack of like courtesy in terms of the amount of communication that goes on.
Can we actually talk about that for you? A good girlfriend of mine is someone who, she has a rule. She's a founder, a very successful graphic design studio. And she has a rule that she doesn't email anyone past 6. She works till midnight every night, but she schedule sends.
I love schedule send.
She schedule sends so that her team don't feel anxious getting emails from the founder at 10, 11 at night. And it's something that I think is actually, you know, with my team, they know I'm a late night owl, and so I send things and they know not to reply. But I wondered, you know, even though they know not to reply, does it give anxiety? What are your thoughts on that?
I think my team in there will tell you it gives them anxiety. I feel the same. I often only get the chance to actually reply to the WhatsApps or the emails at like 8 o'clock at night once the kids are in bed. And I don't expect a response, but I do think it if you're a diligent, hardworking young person, you feel like you should respond.
Yeah.
So that, and I think that's a real problem with the way we're like almost too connected these days. But if I don't do it at night or like first thing in the morning, then you're not going to hear from me again for like, you know, X number of hours, and then things are going to get delayed. So it's like it's a catch-22.
Gosh, it is just all this communication. Okay, now
so let's talk about the new role. Because this is what you're here to talk about and to announce, and this is so exciting. Editor-in-chief.
So in the background,
she says,
there's an amazing magazine that a lot of you will know called The Gentleman's Journal, that was founded by a guy called Harry Jarman, who is a great friend of mine. And when I first met him, probably 12 years ago, we were at a house party, and I was 21, I guess. I can't do the maths on that quick enough. And I think I was actually younger. I think we were 18 when we first met. And my dream had always been to do a women's magazine. And when I was at university, I tried to start some kind of cringy thing that I look back on. And at school, I loved to write. And he told me he was starting this men's magazine. I mean, his story is fantastic. If you don't know it, you should look it up. And
he's an incredible man, and very forward-thinking.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting man. And he, you know, having started the magazine as a side gig to get his swimming trunk company advertising. That's how it all started.
No way.
It ended up completely taking off and becoming this huge thing. I mean, they have every kind of famous male actor, celebrity, you name it, on their covers. But what they were seriously missing was a women's issue, a women's magazine, a sister publication to that. And so Harry and I cooked up this brainchild that's called Cultura, and it launches on the 28th of November. And our one and only very own entrepreneurial editor is sitting opposite me. And really, Cultura it's the voice of the modern entrepreneurial woman. And if you look at all the magazines that are out there, there's very few focusing on that woman who, by the way, doesn't have to be a business owner, just with an entrepreneurial mindset, with a hungry mindset, with a collaborative mindset. I mean, it's for every woman, but it's definitely got that angle and slant to it, which I love, where we deep dive success stories, where we look into the women who are challenging the status quo, journeys of how people built this, failures, successes. You know, even, I mean, it's just filled, it's this delicious, amazing bookazine style magazine that you just want to devour and turn down the pages and rip it out and tear it like it used to be. And we have an incredible masthead behind it. And it is going to be quarterly, print with a bit of a digital presence. And you, my darling Hermione, as entrepreneurial editor, wrote an incredible piece that we're all going to read. But I now want to slightly parallel. I want you to, before we dive back into Cultura, why don't you tell us about your year and what you've been up to? I mean, you talk to everyone.
Let's stay on Cultura.
Well, I think it's relevant to where you got to in your writing. I mean, we'll come back to Cultura, okay. But I think that I'm being bossy now.
Do you
want to
swap
control.
seats? You can interview me.
Can I interview you?
Yeah.
I want to see. Is anyone sat in this seat?
Here we go. I've never been interviewed.
Oh my God, here we go. Oh, it's quite
it's
comfy,
not as comfortable as this one is.
Hold on, what do I do?
I always
Scrub
give
it
the
out?
Guests, yeah. I always give the guests the comfortable.
So Daisy Knatchbull is back. It's now...
Oh, I feel so relaxed over here.
I know you don't like this because you're so fabulous and you're always putting others before you. But I'm calling you Hermione Olivia. Here we go. Where do I do it? Let's clapper. Here we go. It's time to put Hermione centre stage. I think it's important that we do this for you because I think that you have this incredible podcast and you inspire so many people. Being friends with you is like being friends with the kind of celebrity. Yes. But a celebrity who has, what's the word? I want to say chutzpah, but it's you know, it's meaty, it's interesting, it's you inspire women, you are authentic, you're genuine, you and we've talked about this before, you introduce people because you want people to connect, you want people to better the versions of themselves, you want to inspire, you are overly generous in a way that it can only mean you're Australian, because no English person is this generous. I mean, whether you're, you know, in everything that you do, you don't do anything in halves, and I love that about you. And I think you underestimate that why people love this is they love hearing you talk and bring these guests to life and all of that. But why don't we flip it momentarily? And I'm going to ask you a few things. I want you to talk a little bit. You've been through a bit of a year yourself.
Yep.
And why don't you tell us a bit about that and its challenges and where you are today?
It's kind of crazy because, to echo your thoughts, I can't believe it's November, but it also feels like it's been a really long year for me, in the sense that there's been so much transformation. So we only launched in March when I left my job, which was so necessary in terms of like the physical and mental headspace I was in. But it was like a long time coming, and I'd kind of been like tormenting myself about that decision. And as I always do, I jumped headfirst into this.
Don't do anything in halves, as we said.
But I have been trying to be more boundaried and a present mum, which is really, really, really hard when you are OCD and type A. Like, I find it really hard to pull myself away from work, and I find it really hard to pull myself away from the kids. And I think all of my ambitious, hardworking friends are battling that too. Like, when I'm at work, I really find it difficult to like leave before the team. I've always been used to being like the last to leave or like the first in, and that is really hard for me. But then I also, you know, Xanthi yesterday was like clinging on to me, and she's a very confident, outgoing child. She's not like a clinger. And it was like very painful to kind of hand her over to the nanny and come to work. So I feel like once you become a working mum, you're like constantly in this, it's a bit of a battle. And I try not to, because so many incredible women have said to me, just don't do the mum guilt thing. And we've talked about it on the podcast a lot with different guests, because it's a waste of energy. But it is challenging. And it's also challenging in like the relationship dynamic, because even though, as you know, you set us up, Ants is the most amazing husband and the most incredible dad, but he just doesn't have that same, he doesn't get torn in the way that I do.
Yeah.
And I used to find that a lot more challenging. I'm coming to terms with it, but I found that really hard as well, that like his life didn't change in the same way.
But I think that's a really important point, because I think a lot of women struggle with that. How do you not bring work home, and then how do you deal with the fact that Ants may go off on a work trip and say bye and shut the door? And that, you know, you were saying that we had dinner the other night, and, you know, Xanthi, who'd been sick previously, was crying, and you were so good. I was watching you because you were learning which every book says is you've got to just let them cry out and do all of that. I saw the pain in you.
It's so hard.
But so how do you create that divide between work and balancing that maternal thing of feeling deeply guilty and when you shouldn't, but balancing that work life thing with being predominantly a mother, really?
I think it's going to be an eternal juggle. Like, I don't believe in balance anymore. I think there's just, you give where you can when you can. And I think the biggest shift in me is presence. So I try, like, when I'm with her, to like put my phone and my computer away, and I'm like completely with her. If she's having a bath, like I'll even get in the bath and like have a playful bath with her. You know what I mean? Rather than like sitting on the toilet, like on my phone, you know? So trying to like make the moments together really meaningful. But to answer your question about CEO yourself, it's been the most extraordinary journey. I literally only set out to create the space that I wish had been there for me, particularly in like the early 20s, where you're really in a maze of navigating who you are and what you are and where you want to go, and like particularly around your career and relationships and so on. And to create something for like the future Xanthi, I've called it year zero the whole year, because this was the year of trial and error, of just like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Love it that this is trial and error. For most people, this is a huge success. Everyone, this is Hermione's trial and error period.
No, and there's been like so many learnings. We've learned, like for example, with our events, we've trialed every different price point, like different formats, different times of the day and week, and different ways of marketing, and having panels versus just me and so on and so forth. And I've learnt so much, and I'm definitely about to totally rejig it all for next year, because I have noticed that I'm like moving back towards like the overworked vibe, and I don't want to do that. And I think that is me CEOing myself, is realizing that the work never ends and you can always do and be more. But in actual fact, like stopping and checking in with yourself.
Cherishing every opportunity.
Yeah. And being really clear about what phase of life you're in and what you can deliver without killing yourself in the process.
Yeah. And I love that it stands for cherish every opportunity,
exactly.
doesn't it? And I think that's really important, because I think, ironically, that the balance of cherishing each opportunity is lost when one becomes an overworked CEO. So for you to take that time, you're living, you're being your authentic self. You're living by what you're putting out there. Do you want to talk a little bit more about this year? Or?
Yeah. I think like on that, the most rewarding work I've done this year is the one-on-one consulting. And I've had the absolute honour of having these amazing, inspiring women open up their entire story to me and say, how do I do this? And I feel like that's probably my true calling, is like the one-to-one moment where you can actually impact extraordinary positive change. And so I've been trying to kind of like do it to myself. It's much harder, obviously.
Yeah, it's never as easy applying your own logic.
Especially I think it's hard when you're questioning like where you're at and what you want to do with your life, as we were talking about earlier. Yeah. And you have like a super enthusiastic, like positive husband and like friends who believe in you so much and like sometimes more than you believe in yourself. Yeah. It's very hard to actually like check yourself and be very pragmatic and practical. And as much as I believe in women, sometimes I do say like put on your man hat and like think like a man, because it helps you kind of cut through emotional decision making.
But also as women, we're very good at being each other's cheerleaders.
Yeah, which is incredible. Yeah. But then I think sometimes, which we've had so many times and we've helped each other do, is feeling safe to be really honest and realistic with friends. Like, what did you say to me before? Go through your strategy for next year and put in the pros, the cons and the motives for everything you're doing, which I think is the most important thing that I hope people take away from this episode is if you're divided between two jobs or divided between how to, roll out your Q1 strategy, looking at each thing in that capacity.
Pros, cons and motives. Well, I think so often we do pros and cons. I'm a classic. I love a pros and cons list. But the motive's an interesting one because it's so complicated that when you start entering into that, am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it for my husband? Am I doing it for my child? Am I doing it for everyone else's praise? Am I doing it for the younger version of me? Am I doing it to prove my old boss wrong? Am I doing it to prove my absent father? Am I doing it to a number of reasons? But stopping and questioning yourself on that is really important. But amidst everything that you do as CEO yourself and the coaching, for anyone who hasn't, please look at Hermione's testimonials that people have given around her coaching. Talking about cheerleading, this woman is, but seriously, I think that you have 20 years plus experience in influencing businesses, CEOs, startups, entrepreneurs. You've lived it. You really have lived it. And it gives you permission to really be able to coach people and give some advice. So for anyone who's stuck, I've done business coaching in my life and it's really unlocked so much for me. And I think, Hermione, you're very good at this. And I think that you'd be a great person to really help younger women. And by the way, not just younger women. Some of your clients are
a lot older than me,
twice your age.
And often what I tend to see as the theme is women not seeing their own like prowess. And it's me just saying to them, like, look at the potential you have here. Like my client yesterday, she was just beyond extraordinary and inspiring in so many ways. And it was just me like rejigging some of her rates and things that suddenly like doubled her salary for the year ahead. And it's someone just literally who has no emotional ties to like we said before, like overly cheerlead or whatever, but just be really pragmatic. Okay, you got to get rid of that client. That's like a loss maker. Like you need to invest here. You need to like call on that relationship. Like it's very easy to just kind of map it out for someone else. It's really hard to do it for yourself though. Yeah. I have to say. But yeah, the honor for me of being part of Cultura was incredible. Not just to work with you and because I believe in what the magazine is about so much, but because fundamentally I want to write. And
can we talk a bit about,
yeah.
Can you give us a sneak preview of what you wrote about?
Well, you were so generous in allowing me to write about what I wanted to, but that you pushed me in the direction of being a working mum. And it came at a really amazing, like, poignant time because I had a miscarriage in the summer and I haven't talked about it very much. It was very unexpected because I naively just assumed, because Xanthi was such a beautiful surprise and there were never any problems, that would be I know I feel really emotional too. That I just assumed that it would be the same. Interestingly, energetically, the pregnancy didn't feel as positive. It's really hard to describe, but like with Xanthi, it felt so, I don't know, like special. This one didn't feel as, I guess, attached.
Yeah, I mean, you said to me you didn't feel as connected.
Yeah,
Somewhat,
it was different. And we were away with friends, and of course I was wearing white trousers at lunch when it happened. Like, you can't make it up. But I was honestly like totally devastated, and the process is quite challenging physically. But why it was such an interesting moment is because it just forces you to stop in the best way. And my natural instinct was, okay, we're going back to London on Monday and I've got like all these things coming up and I've got all these podcasts and I've got all these events and I've just got to get back to it. And Ants was so wonderful. He was like, we're not doing that this time.
Yeah.
Like, you're taking a minute. And I stayed longer and had this special time with my amazing in-laws and was able to physically and emotionally
I think because there's a big emotional process around it. And firstly, you know, it's incredibly brave for you to put this out there to so many people, because I think 1 in 3 women experience miscarriage. Mm-hmm. It's so not talked about. And it's, in so many ways, it's what do we say? What do you do? You know, how do you respond with this? I think talking about it in the way you are so openly is really important. But I think that idea of just burying your head and carrying on and having your husband stop and say, actually, there's some emotional processing you need to do. I mean, you just touched upon the fact that you were at a lunch with a group of people wearing all white when it happened. That gives me the shivers. It's a really intensely personal experience that you had to go through as a group. Where did it leave you headspace-wise? I mean, without having to go too much, what effect has that left upon you and in wanting to try again, or in being a mother, or in what you want? Has it made you realize that maybe you want to slow down, or what has that left you with?
I think the first feeling was that incredible reminder that we need to stop when things happen in our lives. Like, if you're going through a really horrible divorce or breakup, or if you're really struggling emotionally with something that's going on at home, like, take time off and allow yourself the space. Because on reflection, like, that extra week changed nothing.
Well, your health
but it changed
is your wealth,
everything.
Right? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think I am so guilty of spending my whole life just creating busyness to get through difficult times. Yeah. Like, when I was in a difficult relationship, I just like took on all of the things and was the busiest person and so social, but actually it was just like wearing me away inside.
Coping mechanism.
So from that perspective, I feel as if I feel really like proud of the way we managed it. And I felt very kind of like resolved, like it's like I allowed myself like the full circle. I also think there's so much shame around miscarriage. And part of that shame, I think, comes from this like weird societal thing of like, don't tell anyone you're pregnant until 12 weeks. Yeah. But most miscarriages happen between 7 and 8 weeks. And if you haven't told anyone that you're pregnant, then you kind of like miscarry in private, and it's like creates this shame, I think. But as you know, I'm like quite open, so I had like told people I was pregnant, and then then you obviously have to tell people you're no longer pregnant, or of course they realize that the pregnancy is not continuing. And for me, again, it really helped that people knew, and then that people were able to support me when it didn't eventuate.
Such a nice,
it was
nice
actually,
to hear that, because you, as someone who hasn't been pregnant, you know, you never know. A really close friend of mine at the moment is pregnant and told a lot of us much earlier, inverted commas, than they should. And when we asked, you know, are you going to be okay and what happens, that their response was exactly that. If it's something that we lose, it's a journey that we share with all our loved ones, and that's why we've chosen to share this news early. And I think I understand why people don't. I really do, because for a lot of people that feels intensely private. But it's really nice to hear from you that actually it is a little bit of a taboo subject. If I wasn't very close with you, I wouldn't, not sure how I'd know how to make you feel better about you know it. And actually you were really good in leading that conversation and owning that and being really vulnerable about that. It was really inspiring, actually.
And I think, again, because I allowed myself like the time and space to process it personally, and as a couple, like it's also hard for the father.
Yeah.
In fact, in a lot of ways, I think it was harder for him. Like, you know, when you're the one who's going through like the physical pain, it's almost easier because you just like know you have to go through it. Whereas like if you're the person who loves the person going through something physically painful, it's harder. But to answer your question as to like where it leaves me, I think it's taught me that my family is the priority, and the decisions I make moving forward with any business ventures I do will come after
family
that.
First.
And also like my health is my priority. Like you don't realize how precious your health is until you're...
No, I think going through this
you know too, you've had a hard
thing I've
year.
gone through, it's like, you know, I can't be a founder, I can't be a CEO, I can't be anything if I haven't got my health. And I love that idea that it's reshifted and focused your priorities to make you realize that as hard as you've worked, now you have this precious family. That's really your priority. How did it affect you and Ants? I mean, as a couple, how did the miscarriage?
It's like all things with us, it's definitely made us closer. And I was actually like trying for that baby, and I don't want to do that again. It didn't like energetically feel right.
Yeah.
I think, and he was right about that. He was like, let's just put it in fate's
foot off the
hands.
gas. Yeah.
But with all this said, I'm so aware that so many women go through so much harder fertility journeys. And I went to see a miscarriage specialist when I got home just to make sure everything was okay. And he was like, yep, all good. Until you have 3 in a row, don't come back. Like that's how regular and common they are. And I didn't know that some of like the closest people around me had miscarriages until I had one and was vocal about it. And then suddenly all these women popped up saying, oh my God, I had one. Or like, you know, older women in my life, oh yeah, I had one between this child and that child. Or it's incredibly common. So I hope that if anyone else out there is like struggling or going through it, that they know that they're not alone. And I guess my only piece of advice would be to take the time and space and to talk about it if you can, because it really helps you heal when you then share stories with other people who say, oh yeah, it's actually weirdly common between the first and the second child. Like a lot of my friends had the same experience as me where they fell pregnant easily the first time and then had miscarriages. So yeah, that article that I wrote for you came at a really good time because I wasn't sure how to battle the working mum storyline, and that happened. And that becomes the story, which is, you know, life gets put on hold. And as much as I prioritize and obsess over what I do and always have professionally, at the end of the day, your health and your family is what matters. And I often talk to my coaching clients about that is, you know, we all want to have these big fruitful careers, but you also need to take time to like date and have meaningful relationships and invest in yourself because the years fly by.
Yeah. I think I love hearing you talk like that because I think your Instagram is, and I think you're very vocal on this podcast, which I love about who you are, but I think it's nice to spend some time here talking about you solely because, you know, you are this beautiful angel on Instagram and you're running around eating croissants, which you even do in real life, which half the people don't, you know, dressed in beautiful clothes, you have great style, very successful. But hearing you talk about these challenges, I think is also really humbling and important because it does the very thing that we all need to see, which is that there is this Instagram versus reality world and that you really marry those two up because you can be that girl that looks fantastic and polished and all of that. And then you can be the girl where we're sitting there stuffing our face with croissants and spilling lattes down our clothes and, and being very real and talking about miscarriages or talking about, the difficulties of quitting a job or starting your own business. It creates that whole package and really builds trust with your listener, because there's that balance of vulnerability and, inspiration. And that's what I love about you. I think you've got that balance.
Maybe that's all in all, I would say it's been the most incredible transformative year. To think that I was in another job at the beginning of this year is wild. That feels like a decade ago. And again, to touch on that, like if you're in a job that isn't serving you, like please contemplate taking the leap and do it strategically, like do it when the time is right and when you're ready. But
fresh year.
Yeah.
What's your advice for people going in? We talked about, and I was saying my motto for next year is going to be, one of them is going to be, well, two I've got. One is smart working, not hard working. And I think that's very relevant to what we've discussed and to what a lot of people are feeling at the moment with this burnout culture. And I think that a lot of people work very hard and don't work smart. Whether I use AI tools, which are insane now with inbox management or note taking, or whether I'm just setting my day up with always beginning with a to-do list, I'm going to be smart working. That's my kind of thing. The second one for me was never explain. And we were talking about this, I tend to over explain always. I feel that everyone needs an answer and everything from me, and just saying no is never enough, whether it's turning down plans or having to explain any of the way I behave. I mean, of course, if there's negative behavior, it deserves an explanation. But so often I feel that people deserve a long kind of explanation for any of the things that I do. And I'm really trying to hold back on that and just do things. If I say I can't attend something, I don't need to give the reason why. I just can't. And
again, drop the guilt.
Yeah.
Someone wrote the other day, can't be there, darling, like dash, no excuse, exclamation mark, lots of love.
Love that.
And I was like, you're amazing. That is incredible. She was like, I'm not even going to tell you. She was just like, no excuse, love you lots. And I was like, I'm using that. I've tried really hard to do that this year. I still feel immense guilt. Like I missed one of my best friend's birthday dinners on Saturday night because I just like couldn't do it. And she was so amazing about it. Like she's one of my best friends. And I would also be very understanding.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about this the other day actually. Something that's really hard about London life that I didn't feel as much in Sydney is the constant plans.
2-week blocks.
Yeah, like these plans were like, I'm booking dinner in with you for I saw Ants did it the other day on our group chat, like, guys, like January 23rd dinner, and it's like I'm resenting it already and it hasn't even happened. What was so amazing?
Replied, we hate plans.
Yeah, we hate plans. We're not doing that. Like Monday night when you just like, I'm going to come over in an hour, like, and I was like, perfect, dinner's on the table. Oh. That to me is like the most dreamy catch up because it just happened to work. And I want to bring back the like
organic catch up.
Yeah, and like these plans, like these incessant plans, that
you then resent, and then you end up wanting to cancel and you can't.
And then when the other person cancels, you're like, yes, they cancelled first.
Or that awkward thing when no one's confirmed before. And it's not because you don't love them, but both of you just secretly want your Tuesday night back that you committed to 4 months previously. I mean, it is bonkers. I totally agree.
Yeah. And then it's like, how often should you be socializing? Because then also if you have like a big social group like we do, and especially once you add in a partner and then you've got their whole social group and their family, and I don't get to see you nearly as often as I'd like to, or, Tats or any of our like close friends, because I also don't want to do it. The people I really love, I don't want to do it to them where I'm like, okay, let's put like at the end of dinner, when are we seeing each other again?
Well, you end up seeing the people you're not, you're less close with more because it's this complicated thing where you're not going to let down the people that really love you unconditionally. And it's so complicated. God.
I want to find a new way of doing it. Like now that we've moved back into our house, I said to Ants, like, what about if on a Friday night, it was like pizza night at our house every Friday night. And it's like, everyone's welcome, like the pizzas are firing. There's like wine flowing. True. Anyone and everyone is welcome. Or like maybe it's like the Sunday roast or something. Yeah. But like rather than like 4 different catch-ups through the week, those 4 couples all come at once. I don't know.
It's
like,
that
there has
individual
to be,
thing that's the stress. Because what I love at the moment, I'm in weddings, mania. And you see everyone you love, you dance all night, you catch up, you have them at dinner. And that's it. But this incessant thing of these, and it's obviously you do love an individual catch up. I love, you and I had it the other day. I love that. But I don't know, we don't always have to see everyone one-on-one. And I love that idea of the collective, Sunday roast or Friday pizza night. it's about, there's a way of doing it smarter.
Because it's making me
hanging out,
smarter socializing. Like it's making me antisocial.
Yeah.
Because I now just say no to everything.
Yeah.
And I've become like a hermit crab back to my primary school
nickname.
Not
what you want to be either, but it's also quite enjoyable. What will you bring for 25? What's your kind of
2025 is going to look very different, I think. I'm in the throes of like doing the strategy at the moment and being really brutal with myself about what works and what doesn't.
Notice.
Yeah. And I highly encourage anyone listening to this, like we're nearing the end of the year, work hopefully is slowing down for you, or like you're having some time off over Christmas, like get that paper and pen out and like build your strategy for the year as to like the things you want to achieve. And be really hard on yourself. Like I think, not really hard on yourself, that's the wrong way of putting it, but like be really honest with yourself about what you want and like what's working and what's not. Like it's very interesting, when I used to have a PR company and I did this once, I realized that 80% of the work was being done for 20% of the clients and vice versa. And often the work that was being done was for the lowest paying clients that like barked the loudest. And sometimes you have to actually let go of those clients or that work or whatever it is to do better work where it matters. Yeah. So let's see, an exciting year ahead. And I guess like a clean slate. I feel like this year hasn't been bad in any way, but it definitely has been energetically. I'm ready for as I said, to like pour the champagne and
I do say this
open
every
some
year.
presents.
I wonder if I'm like 2024 is going to be my year. But it's funny because what defines that is my year? Why has this not been my year? What expectations did I have about this year that it was going to be? I think there's a few more people other than me that think that, every time the New Year's Eve, I think, yes, fresh start. It's like September school year, it gets that feeling of back to school. Everything, all my resolutions, and I never keep to, it's going to be me and this is going to be, I don't know what I really look for in that. And maybe I need to look back. Maybe the listener who's going to be strategizing forward, like you said, maybe it's about taking stock of the year that you and I are very bad at, but, and saying, okay.
That worked really well.
Yeah.
This was amazing.
What was going to be my year and where do I think I haven't made this my year? Because, we've just talked through all the amazing things you've done and the things that I've done. And I don't think many people would say that wasn't, owning the year. So I think it's about setting realistic goals as well. I mean, everyone talks about, there's crazy stats now about how many New Year's resolutions are made and broken. And I think we've all moved away from that model of just perpetual disappointment from when you kind of day 5 and you're not ice bathing every day. And
in a British winter.
But I think it's about looking back as well.
I think starting with gratitude and appreciation for like what you have achieved, where you're at, all the blessings you have in your life. And then it's thinking about where you really want to go, and like your word for it is motives.
Yeah.
I often try to think about like the true meaning behind, like, is it my ego? Is it family expectations or like my perceived family expectations and so on? And getting really clear about like what you want for you. But also I feel as if it's like this burnout thing is becoming so common. And I see so many women around me just grinding themselves
to the ground.
Yeah. And serving everyone else and not serving themselves and not allowing themselves the space to invest in themselves, not their career, like in themselves, especially once you have kids. So I think it's, looking at what fills your cup up and allows you to bring the best version of yourself forward. But for me next year, I'd love to have more time with my true core friends.
Yeah. Love that. It's funny, since I fell off my bicycle
literally
3 weeks ago, and this is a PSA to anyone who cycles on a line bike, because the A&E was furious about more line bike accidents. Wear a helmet, which actually I was, and just be careful. I had a shoelace caught in a pedal, which is more common than you think, and I came off and cracked my hip on the pavement and wasn't able to fly and was in bed for a week, blah blah blah. But really what it was is, off the back of being diagnosed with all this kind of burnout stuff, it slowed me down. And it's my 3rd week now of having no plans. And
when you told me, I was like, oh my God, congratulations. That's amazing news.
But it's crazy. I'm like, I feel
because you got
like
to take a second.
Person.
Yeah. And you were so on the, the rat race.
Yeah.
And I said to
convincing
you,
myself I was being chilled.
Yeah. And if you don't make time...
Because my plans only started on a Wednesday, back to back.
Crazy. But if you don't make time, the universe or your body will force you to make time. Yeah. And that's why when you told me he'd fallen and came limping into my house with like a broken hip, I laughed and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing news. You get to take some time for yourself. Because as I said, like if we don't plan it,
the universe has a way of bringing it to us. Mm-hmm. It has been really interesting. And it's been, I've never slept so much. My relationship has never been better. My friendships have never been better. I've got this headspace it's been good. I mean, I don't want to live like this forever. It's unsustainable. I can't not see anyone. But I'm quite looking forward to January because every year I don't drink in January and I really become a hermit and I start doing things like knitting and paint by numbers and things that feel very zen. There's a cupboard
really
somewhere
that
exists with all these things I'll do when I chill out, right? And January is always that time. So I'm quite looking forward to that. And I think like the pandemic, with all the sadness it brought, it taught people to slow down and stop. And we all promised we'd hold on to that. Do you remember? I promised I'm only going to shop at my greengrocer. I promised that I'm going to spend 5 nights at my 7 Inn and all these things that just don't happen because life happens and you get busy. But I'm definitely going to take away from the bike accident and whatever's going on, just don't forget how good it feels. Because the pandemic gave us this moment we'll never have again of stopping. And this bike accident, having no plans for 3 weeks, is almost that small reminder again of don't forget, the power of that. And so it's not really, I'm going to try and not just have dry January staying in. I'm going to try and incorporate that into 2025. That's going to be a big one.
I saw someone post on Instagram the other day that she was doing her monthly self-love day where she like had a day for herself once a month. And I was like, that is genius, right? Rather than doing like some random things here and there, like imagine a whole day where you're like not working, not looking after other people, like doing something beautiful for yourself. Yeah. I thought, wow, I might adopt that. Maybe that's my
I love that
2025 thing. I have to think about my word for the year.
What's it going to be? Drum roll.
My word for this year was bravery.
Which I think you've done.
Yeah, so bravery helped me to quit my job and to launch this platform. Like the first episode I did of this, oh my God, I was so nervous. Like my teeth were chattering.
Who's your first guest?
Olivia Ferdy.
Amazing. Yeah. You've had some incredible guests.
Yeah. And then, the first time I had to walk out on stage and like the first webinar and my first mentoring session. And
it's been a year of firsts.
Yeah. And also like the bravery with, navigating motherhood in a new way and living at my in-laws. No, I'm joking. I love my in-laws. It was amazing. But living in the countryside was not for me. But yeah, the bravery of like navigating the miscarriage and things. So I don't know what my word's going to be next year. I have to think about it.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So just in closing, I just want to promote your amazing businesses quickly. Knatchbull has like a more diverse offering now with different price ranges. Yeah. Exactly. So tell us about that and where we can find you.
So that's a beautiful ready-to-wear collection that's made up of trench coats, cashmere jumpers, silk shirts, lace camis, merino wool polo necks, all sorts. And you can find that on knatchbull.com.
Amazing.
Very simple.
And the magazine we will link in the show notes.
The magazine, exactly. We're online, Instagram and hard copies. And
it's launching on the
28th of November.
28th of November. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we'll do more episodes together next year.
It would mean the world to me if you would share today's episode with someone you feel would enjoy it. And don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and leave a comment.